list, and appreciate your attending our second training. The first one was on procurement. That was a couple of weeks ago. And then today we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition education. And as you know, being on CACFP, nutrition education is a monthly requirement, and you can use one activity and then make it appropriate for all developmental stages for different ages. So, but this training is going to give you a lot of different ideas for specifically, since you all have been awarded a mini grant, $500, or you're a pilot program for the year with a sizable amount of funding. So you could start a center, or you could buy local produce, fruits and vegetables, and include that in a nutrition education activity. So we've got a lot of resources. You all have used the merry-go-round for many years, and you reach out to us and say, what new things can we do? Well, for this specific New Mexico grown, and for the mini grants and the pilot programs, you're going to have endless amounts of ideas. And we've done a little bit of detailing our nutrition ed activity form, and it includes a check mark for your
mandatory training,
your mini grants, and also your pilot programs for your garden.
Red one from Walmart. Really?
And if you all could mute in the lower left-hand side, you'll see a little microphone. If you could just make sure there's a red slash over that, I'd appreciate that. And then we can just keep going with our training. But we're going to talk a little bit about farm to preschool as far as nutrition education, Nuevo Thursday, story times and art projects, maybe using seeds that you've bought that you'll use in your cooking, but you can also use that for art. We'll talk about a wonderful nutrition education curriculum, CHILE Plus, that you can use also, and that is great for your CACFP nutrition ed requirement. And then also we have Syra for the American Friends Service community, and she'll tell us a little bit what that's all about, but they're here to help us. So we've got some great speakers. We have Alberto, we have the Healthy Kids, Healthy Preschool staff with Corey, Gabriel, Catherine, Elena's heading it. Rita would be here, but she's taking a few days off, and so we're going to take the lead on that. So let's go ahead and start the next slide and take it away.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm Elena Paisano. I'm serving as the Farm to Preschool Coordinator, supporting Rita's staff from the Department of Health and Pam and her staff from the Early Education and Care Department in launching Farm to Preschool around the state in a comprehensive way. So I'm just here to give us a little bit of background and a reminder about Farm to Preschool and how it relates, specifically for our topic today, nutrition education. So Farm to Preschool, when we talk about Farm to Preschool, we're talking about 4 key strategies in our program. And so it's the incorporation of New Mexico grown foods into the meals and snacks that you're serving. It's helping get those kiddos get experiential and outdoor education in edible gardens and built environments. It's nutrition education that's hands-on, that's exploring food and building relationships with those foods that will help to develop healthy lifestyles. And it's bringing our families and our communities along for the ride, right? When we're working with kids this age, it's the whole family that we're trying to engage. And so something that I think is really important about Farm to Preschool is that all of these pieces, they work best when they're done together. And nutrition education is kind of like the glue that brings everything together. So you have those kids out in the garden, they're working and digging and learning about plants, you have them eating the food. It's that time to explore the food through nutrition education that helps them to make those connections between it grows in the garden, I eat it, and it comes from the land, and all these other beautiful things that can come out of it, not only for nutrition, but as a little bit later we'll talk about, there's art projects, there's all sorts of uses for our local and traditional foods here in the state. So we say that, nutrition education is really about teaching diet, nutrition, and healthy choices from an early age. Right? We're not talking about actual diet classes. We're talking about introducing new foods, encouraging them to explore new flavors, eat the rainbow, all of those sort of strategies. There's also opportunities to learn about plants. And so that can be as simple as sprouting seeds to, growing a garden outside. Also resource stewardship. We are in New Mexico, right? So we can't talk about growing food without talking about water and the environment that supports it. And so this is a great way to introduce that to the kids. And we're also really rich in our cultural traditions here in the state. And why I do farm to school and farm to preschool is because it's an opportunity to really uplift that. What we know and what we do well and what our communities are proud of, farm to preschool is a way to bring that into the school setting. So we'll talk more about some of the types of activities, but as I said, it can range from doing story time to doing fruit and vegetable tastings, or even just exploring those foods. And also, simple cooking activities with the kids. And it's not going to look like developing a huge formal recipe, but it might be simple things like making smoothies with them or doing other easy activities. So I touched on this a little bit earlier, but nutrition education is really, really important to making farm to preschool work and creating that impact for the student and family. So it supports all the activities. There's also a whole bunch of data that we can pull from research and that you all have just from working with kids, that when you introduce new foods in fun ways, they're more likely to eat it, right? I have a 4-year-old and I'll tell you, whatever we've grown in the garden, she eats. There's other foods I really have to work on, but when it comes to tomatoes and carrots and greens, she'll eat them and she can make that connection when it comes to the plate. It's also a really good way for kids to learn the story of each food and build relationships with the food beyond, again, just consumption, but understanding where they're from, why we value them, some of the things we can do with them and the ways we celebrate them. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues, Gabriel and Alberto, who are going to talk a little bit more about some of the activities that are good options. Actually, I lied. I'm first. So I'm here to introduce a curriculum called Nuevo Thursdays. And Nuevo Thursdays has been functioning in our K-12 schools for a couple of years. It was developed by the Public Education Department and nonprofit partners. And what's great about Nuevo Thursdays is it's a harvest of the month curriculum. So if that's a new term for you, essentially what it means is each month we highlight a local food that grows right here in our state. And this program is really beautiful because it has ways of highlighting in the cafeteria, or in our case, during mealtime, it has ways of highlighting in the classroom and in the garden. And so it's a promotional program, but it also has curriculum attached. And it's a tool that we're going to make available to all of you and that we think will work in our preschool provider environment as well as at home. So there's ways to adapt these resources to use them at home. So you'll see over here on the side, there's a purple sticker that says "Pick Me, I'm Local," and then one in Spanish right below it. Those are promotional stickers that you can receive. So you can put them, on the calendar, or you can put them out for the kids to see on that day. It's part of the promotional materials. There's a whole suite of other materials I'll show on the next slide. There's these beautiful posters that talk about the foods that grow right here in our state. There's a map, it's very small, but in actuality, it will be a full-size map that shows some of the farms that participate in New Mexico Grown. So these are the products that are featured throughout the curriculum, foods that actually grow here. So if you Google harvest of the month, you're going to see a whole lot of beautiful things involving strawberries and oranges. We don't grow those foods, right? We grow other types of foods. And so this is a homegrown program, again, that features what our farms have to offer. And we'll talk more about this. We're actually going to do a follow-up training with y'all. Cooking with Kids, which is a nonprofit based in Santa Fe, was instrumental in developing some of the curriculum resources we'll share with you. They have things like there's a recipe for each product. There's coloring sheets and little information sheets about the plants. And all of that is available in the curriculum that we will go over in a follow-up training in quite a bit of detail with all of you. All right, I'm gonna hand it over to Alberto. Did I lose him? Gabriel, do you see his tile? Did he go away?
It looks like Alberto isn't on the call anymore. He's been having a lot of internet issues today, so maybe we can come back to this slide.
Gabriel, do you
Yeah,
mind
come
jumping
back,
in?
or you know, I mean, I can. I feel like you probably speak to these things better than I can, Elena. But do you
Okay,
want me
well,
to jump in?
Why don't you go ahead and I'll fill in any blanks that there might be.
Okay, yeah, you fill in for me.
Tag team.
Okay, cool. Well, Rita put this slide together for us, but you all can see Alberto. Hopefully he'll be on. And Alberto, if you come on, just jump right in. But we've got these wonderful resources that are based on our characters. If you all look right at the center of your picture there, under that nice little image of a child doing some seed art. And I think Pam mentioned seed art earlier as a wonderful way for children to learn more about seeds. And then you can see on the right-hand side there, they took a little ice tray, but you could use an egg carton or any other type of divider. And, you know, we've got the food separated into peas and squash and whatever other types of foods. And then the children can start to learn what these different seeds are and what kind of foods they'll turn into once they start to grow into plants. And that's super exciting. And then in the middle of the picture there, you see Yazzie Bear's Summer Harvest Wordless Book. And this is all based on the series that we have called the Dinky Book series. And Dinky and his 4 friends are from this wonderful imaginary town in New Mexico called El Pueblito. And it's all based on our 5210 characters around eating more fruits and vegetables, spending less time in front of screens, engaging in more physical activity, and drinking more water. And so those are a wonderful way to engage children in some of these healthy lifestyle behaviors, and certainly around nutrition education, right? And there's so many other books. And again, we have a resource list full of great books that we on our team have curated that will be available to you all, that you can use to help purchase books that help engage children in these themes and topics. And then that last thing on the left there is a seed ball. And those are another fun project that's hands-on. We know hands-on interactive activities are a great way to get kids excited and a wonderful way for them to learn. And so you can make seed balls and then you can plant those and water them. And of course, they'll start turning into plants. And it's something that kids can get really excited about. And then I'll pass it back to you, Elena, if you have some stuff to fill in.
Sure. Thanks, Gabriel. I think you did a great job. Yeah, so if you're one of our community pilot sites, these are some opportunities for you to utilize the amount of funding that you have for nutrition education. So as was mentioned, we have a book list. I'll share that at the end of the presentation. It contains books that are relevant to here in New Mexico, as well as some favorites from around the country. We also will have family engagement toolkits. And so the art and nutrition activities, they'll go beyond just the classroom. There'll be opportunities to bring in families. So for instance, seed balls are an activity that we're going to include in the family engagement, because who doesn't love making seed balls and making our world a little bit more beautiful? So those types of activities will give you step-by-step instructions, and we'll make those instructions available to all of you, including our mini grantees, so that you can take advantage of these resources. The wordless books that were mentioned will also go out to our pilot communities. So you'll receive a set of those. They are beautiful. They're wordless. They're a great opportunity to incorporate local stories, culture. You know, you make it as you go, and they all feature a different season. And one of them that I know Alberto is going to show us it's the fall one, and it shows a story around harvest time. That's really lovely. So the DOH team is also going to be making posters that will be available to you, one for each season, that are based on that the art in those books that was created here in New Mexico by a local artist. All right, so now I'm going to introduce one of our partners here in the state that's been working on, nutrition education that's benefiting communities all over the state, and that's Nan Zhang from UNM. So Nan, go ahead and take it.
So may I share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to.
So can anyone see my screen now? Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Nan, and I am the Executive Director of CHILE Plus at University of New Mexico Prevention Research Center. So today I will be presenting our CHILE Plus project. So the CHILE Plus stands as the Child Health Initiative for Lifelong Eating and Exercise Plus program, is a dissemination of the original CHILE intervention, which is an evidence-based nutrition education and obesity prevention program among American Indian and Hispanic children in Health Star programs across rural New Mexico. So since 2011, CHILE Plus was funded by the New Mexico Human Services Department as a SNAP-Ad project to promote physical activity and nutrition among preschoolers across rural New Mexico. So with the implementation of the CHILE Plus, we hope that the Health Star children and their families will eat more fruits and vegetables and eat lower high-fat foods and drink fewer sugar sweetened beverages, and the parents can learn how to serve and choose foods and the age appropriate portion size. And the children should spend at least 30 minutes of physical activity, moderate to vigorous physical activity, and spend no more than 1 hour per day being sedentary behavior. So here you can see some components of the CHILE intervention. We have physical activity and nutrition curriculum. We have grocery store and family events, healthcare providers and food service and professional development. And notably, the grocery store healthcare providers and family events were suspended in 2016, but we hope that we can pick them up later in the next few years. So right now, we only conduct the CHILE Plus physical activity and nutrition curriculum and the professional development, and we also develop take-home materials to preschool parents. So as you can see, original CHILE project, we involved 16 Health Star centers across New Mexico, and since funded by the SNAP-Ad, CHILE Plus right now scale up and partner with more than 80 Health Stars from 16 school districts and serve more than 2,000 families with preschool age children per year right now. And if you hear the some CHILE Plus resources and public available, so if you type in CHILE Plus in Google, you can easily find our project. And yeah, here's our demonstrator how to do it. And if you type the CHILE Plus, you can find the details of our CHILE Plus project, and we have many resources available for you to download. And for example, we have professional development training, which teach teachers and parents how to do physical activity and nutrition with preschool children, either at home and in the school. And we also have digital repertory, including physical activity and the nutrition curriculum and the family engaged activities. And all the curriculum are evidence-based. So they are publicly free and you can download it and easy to access. Here, the example of family engaged activities. We teach parents how to serve and how to do nutrition activity at home with their preschool kids.
Nan, all of
And
these
we'll
are in
also
English and
have-
in Spanish, correct?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear any because it's kind of slow right now.
Oh, sorry. I was just mentioning that all of your materials are in
Okay,
English
here's
and in
the curriculum. yeah, I will stop here. And I'm sorry, I cannot hear your questions. This is slow. Probably I was playing the video.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, Nan. I was just saying that all of your materials and all those activities are in English and in Spanish. Is that correct?
Yes, they are both in English and Spanish version. So
Cool.
they are
Thank you.
publicly available. So we also provide the hard copy materials as required if you want it, and we can provide a hard copy as well. And they may also wonder, how do we conduct the CHILE Plus during pandemic with various restrictions? And we know that the pandemic has changed many things. So below, I will highlight three actions that we made to minimize the influence of COVID for our CHILE Plus project. So I think many intervention studies just transferred to a virtual platform. So the CHILE Plus did the same. So CHILE Plus adapted CHILE Plus professional developed training into an interactive online format during the pandemic. So this interactive training will make the training more accessible, as well as increase the reach and the contact of health store centers. So this training is now available and shared with SNAP at Toolkit for other states or organizations to implement inside and outside of New Mexico. So to implement the CHILE Plus intervention during the pandemic, we also create a social platform, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, to deliver CHILE Plus intervention materials such as physical activity and nutrition curriculum, as well as family engaged activities that allow parents and teachers to conduct the CHILE Plus in school and at home as well. So the last one, the CHILE Plus team provide ongoing technical assistance as needed to local communities. So this technical assistance is provided by phone, email, or CHILE Plus online process. So due to the time limit, so I just give you an overall introduction of our CHILE Plus, but we leave our contact information here in case you are interested in partnering with us. So if you have any question, you want to know more details about our project, feel free to reach out. And I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have. And thank you. This is about our CHILE Plus.
Thank you so much, Nan. I'm going to put a quick poll in the chat. So if you are interested in learning more about CHILE Plus or accessing those resources, please go ahead, put your name, your center name, and your email in the chat, and that way we can hand that list over to you, Nan, and kind of streamline that process and see how much interest there is for a follow-up conversation about CHILE Plus. We'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that. Next, we're going to hear from Saira Namaste with American Friends Service Committee, who has been doing farm to preschool in the state for many years and really pioneered a lot of this work with their Crunch, Munch, and Chomp curriculum. I finally got it. And I have to say, I've been exploring these resources. They're beautiful, they're awesome, they're easy to use. And so Saira's here to talk a little bit about their project and hopefully share some of that information with all of you.
Well, thank you, Elena. Thanks for inviting. Thank you. Yes. And my coworker here is Angelina is also here, and she did a lot of this work as well. So appreciate you inviting us to talk about this work we've been doing for just over 5 years. Just trying to connect our local farmers with our ECEs, specifically targeting Head Start, but also other kinds of early childhood centers across the state. Years ago, when we were first trying to get local food on the menu consistently, we found a lot of obstacles and we had a lot of trial and error, which we document in this book that you can see on the screen, Crunch, Munch, and Chomp. It's just what we learned, what we tried, and what we're going to keep trying to do. And a lot of it, on every page, you'll see quotes from farmers, local farmers, and local teachers and cooks. So we really wanted to amplify their voices about what this has been like. So the name of it comes from one of the things we've been successful at, and I'm just going to focus on in my 5 minutes, is our healthy food campaigns. So we have a great carrot crunch, a cherry tomato chomp, give peas a chance, and terrific turnip tasting. And the idea is that we bring to your ECE those local vegetables, depending on the season, along with an activity guide for the teacher, the activity guides for the kids, activities for the children, and every child who tries the vegetable that day gets a sticker. So if they try that local carrot, they get a sticker, and when they go home, their parents say, what's that sticker mean? I tried a carrot today. And we also provide posters so that it's advertised ahead of time so parents know and the kids know that they're building up to the great carrot crunch or the cherry tomato chomp or the give peace a chance. We've had parents like dress the kids in orange for the week of the carrot crunch or dress them in red for the cherry tomato chomp. And then we just have fun. We've had farmers come to the classroom and talk to them. And it's just, there's really fun activities. So there's coloring pages, there's movement activities, there's stories, just a whole guide of things. There's cut and paste where the kids can cut out vegetables and glue them on a little farm page. So we've just developed these ideas that we're trying to be as comprehensive as possible for you wonderful teachers who are with our kids, so that you get the vegetable, you get the activities, and we just want to get kids excited so that they keep trying it. And then we always do surveys. We've gotten great feedback. We've had, and it's always a mix of things. We have teachers who tell us we have children who have never tried a carrot. And if we had just served them carrots, they probably would have not eaten it. But when we make it a game and they get rewarded with a sticker and there's coloring pages and activities, the kids are more open to eating that carrot. And there's the pressure of the other kids eating the carrot. We've had teachers say, oh, we love that you give us carrots with greens attached because we have a pet hamster and we feed the greens to the hamster. We've had some parents say, what my child learned from the cherry tomato chomp is that they don't like cherry tomatoes. And so it's mostly been really positive, but more than 95% of teachers have asked to do it again. And so it's just been as comprehensive as we can be. I've seen kids play with their food when they get it, and we're really trying to encourage them to eat it. We had a teacher tell us, I had a little girl who's terrified of peas. We don't know why she was terrified. When she saw the other kids eating the peas and she wanted a sticker, she tried it and realized she likes it. So that's the idea of these healthy food campaigns, is we can come to your school with all of these things. One of our goals is to have a field trip eventually. That's a big request we get, is like, how can we bring our kids out to the farms? It's especially been hard during COVID. We have done some grab and go, which so then the whole family is being challenged to try a turnip or to try cherry tomatoes. So we do try to engage the parents, and we have some wonderful parents. Kids also, like some of the other things you saw in earlier slides, there's activities around like planting seeds. There's just like a lot of good overlap, I think, in this, but we've just really seen a great response of kids getting excited about eating their vegetables, which is the idea. And on Monday, we'll be meeting with our annual meeting of farmers, and we'll be planning out our next healthy food campaigns. And the idea is to always line up our local farms, what they can grow and when, and then with like the ECEs, like what's happening there. And then lastly, a point that Alina, that someone else had made about gardens. We did some pop-up gardens during COVID because we know it's safer for kids to be outdoors when they can. And so we had some requests and just seen wonderful feedback. And in this guide, there is a case study of what it means to put a garden at your school. And we've been willing to like come out and build pop-up gardens and engage the kids that way, because they will eat the food and it changes their behaviors, like when you put kids in a garden. So it's a really wonderful benefit. And I'll just pause there and I'll put a link in the chat if people are interested. Oh, maybe, yeah, Angelina's doing it. Yeah, so if you want to learn more, I want to get involved with our healthy food campaigns. We've been focusing on Albuquerque, northern New Mexico, Jemez Pueblo, Isleta Pueblo, mostly in that area. So I think there's some difference in like where the different groups are able to work in what counties. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Syra. And I have a question for you. I know that some of the resources, some of the curricular resources are available on your website to download. I looked at the Give Peas a Chance, for instance, and saw that you had lesson plans in there. So are you okay with us sharing that with this group?
Yeah, that would be great. You'll notice that there is a range. And so the way our activity guides work, the first few pages are for the youngest kids. And as you go further in the guide, we have worked with some elementary schools. And so then it starts to get harder. And you'll know as a teacher if it fits your age group or not.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's so great to hear about your program. And again, for you guys for just paving the way around this farm to preschool conversation here in the state. And I'm really proud to see us all kind of coming together and able to offer to our wonderful teachers more resources moving forward. All right, so the next thing we want to talk about is making the most impact with what it is you're doing. So Gabriel and Alberto, excuse me, are going to talk a little bit about some strategies to make sure that we're not only digging into, the core elements of what we call farm to preschool, but also making it stick and making it fun and interactive. So Gabriel, I'll hand it over to you first.
Cool, thanks, Elena. I love the title for this section, Tips for Making the Most Impact, right? Because it's like, yeah, we want everything that we're doing to really be meaningful for the kids, and of course be meaningful for the teachers too, because the teachers are the ones doing all the work to help facilitate the learning and the development and the building of excitement about about farm to preschool and our children, right? And so first of all, just in terms of bringing more diversity, more ideas into what we can do to help engage children around nutrition education, we're talking here about incorporating physical activity and imaginary play, things that you wouldn't necessarily kind of join up or think that they work hand in hand with nutrition education, but all this stuff works together. I remember Elena said earlier on that this was about the whole child, right? And so it's like everything works together. And so some of these pictures don't necessarily pertain specifically to the activities that we're doing, but these come, Alberto, who you heard from, or no, you didn't get to hear from him because his internet went out. I'm not sure if he's back, but he was going to speak to our next slide. And so if he's back, he will. And so you'll get to hear from him. He's a wonderful partner that we work with. And he's based in southern New Mexico and helps support our work in preschools down in the southern part of the state. So these are pictures that he took at centers, where we have programming. And so if you look at the left side there, we have creative outdoor opportunities like plant walks. And plant walks are so cool. It's just another wonderful opportunity. It gets us outside. I think just getting children outside, and adults too, it does something so wonderful for our mind and our bodies. And there's even research to show that when we get outside, it helps to improve the health of our gut, the health of something called our microbiome. You may have all heard that. It's kind of a hot button topic right now. And that's all of the different kinds of bacteria that live inside of our large intestine. And it turns out the more diversity we have, the healthier we are and the stronger our immune systems tend to be. And just spending more time outside is something that can help our immune systems to grow stronger. And we especially want to facilitate that in our little ones, right, as they're developing and growing. And of course, then, so you can see here on that left picture, there's a playground and there's like some weeds and things that are growing up just right out of the dirt. And then if you look into the background, there's a bunch of trees and everything lining the landscape, right? And so this isn't a real formal like pollinator garden or vegetable or flower garden that we're taking. But even in this situation, because we're not always going to have the ideal garden or the ideal place to do a plant walk, we can still be looking at the weeds, and the weeds will produce flowers and different kinds of seeds, right? And the trees will do the same thing. Sometimes there's seed pods and all kinds of different things that are falling from the trees and the leaves and the bark. And so it doesn't matter where we are, we can still find opportunities to, again, make the most impact where we are. And then in the middle picture, we see garden stretches and yoga and active songs, right? Children love to sing, they love to dance. And in our list of resources and books, there's going to be great books and different things that'll help with, active songs and poems and different things that children can learn and can get involved in and get them up and moving. And then you can see this little girl here. Again, she comes from one of the preschools where we have programming. The garden stretches aren't being done, or the yoga isn't being done in a garden here, but you can see the shadow. She's outdoors, and just being outside, like I said, is something that's so important. Just getting that sunshine, which helps us to produce vitamin D in our skin. And vitamin D is so essential, again, for our brain health and for our bone health, for our development. So being outside, getting active, and then sensory tables and dramatic play. You can see these kids. I don't know if you see on the left side of this picture, but there's a frisbee, that green frisbee that's flying. I'm not sure if this child here in yellow and blue flew through it, or maybe if they're getting ready to catch it. Hopefully it doesn't hit anybody in the head. But again, these children are outside and they're engaging in a lot of different things. And we're going to have some really wonderful resources to help jog your memories about great ways to incorporate these aspects into nutrition education. And with that, I'll pass it on to the next slide with Alberto. Do we have him back?
Yes, I am here, and I apologize, my internet went out before, so I am back. So yeah, and the other thing is bring in families and community. And before we get to this, again, I'm gonna use the words that Elena was using earlier about the whole children. And we're thinking about not only on the child, not only what it happens when they're at the center, but what happens when they're at home, because that's part of the child environment. So through the years, we realized that children were living in two different worlds. One, where they're at the center, where they're getting all this good nutrition, they're being active, they don't spend a lot of time in front of the screen, all these good things with the children. But what happens when they go home? And probably it's totally the opposite. That's why it's really important that we bring the families, we invite families into nutrition education. And it's crucial that we share what the children are learning in the centers and Head Starts about nutrition. So what we can do? Well, at centers, Head Starts, it's just this: create opportunities for families to taste local foods and share the activities, ideas, and resources to them, so they can hopefully eventually what happens at the centers happens at home as well. When I talk with parents and I ask this question, how many of you want the best for your children? All of them raise their hands. When I ask how many of you know what is the best, probably one or two. So that's our work, and that's what we need to do here. Just share that information, share those resources, ideas, what is happening at the center with the parents. So hopefully, eventually, again, what happens at the centers, it replicates at home. So I'm a firm believer that through education and sharing information with families, we can change not only behaviors but lifestyles. And that's what we can do. How can we do it? Well, first of all, it's sharing recipes, activities implemented at your programs through handouts, bulletins, newsletter, Facebook, any social media that you're using right now. Something simple that you're doing at your center. For instance, if you're using, I don't know, I'm going to use an example here close to where I am in Anthony, where we have mushroom farm here, right? Because we're talking about local foods. So if, for instance, you are using or introducing the mushroom as the fruit or vegetable of the month, and you're introducing, the teacher talking with the children about the mushrooms, that we have a farm, and even the fiber, the protein, and the antioxidants that mushroom have, all that good things while they're touching, tasting, and doing all that good things with that food. And if at the end of the day, you send that information in a handout to the parents, you are providing some nutrition education to them. And also, if you send that information the same day, it's more likely that families are going to try it. If you include a recipe, easy to do, affordable, or you can even send some of those mushrooms to the family so they can taste it, it's more likely that they're going to try it, because children get excited about it. And I still remember my little one, I have 3 kids, but my little one is the one that had this experience at the school where, well, at least once a month, she was walking out of the school with some vegetables or fruits in her hand and saying, like, Dad, today we learn about broccoli. And did you know that broccoli has this and that and that and that and that? And if she asked me to do something with broccoli that day, we usually do it. The children are excited, and who doesn't want to please your child, right? So that's simple things that you can do by sharing that, and again, are going to be implemented at home. Other things that we can do is family cooking nights, where you can invite families and have everything ready for them. And during the pandemic, we have to be really creative. And one of the Head Starts here in the South, they do family cooking nights through Zoom, where beforehand they send everything that families needed for the family night, and at Zoom they all together were doing whatever they were cooking that night. it was quite an experience. And they share PowerPoint and information about the nutrients, how to cook, the recipe, everything on Zoom. So it was quite a success. That other things that we can try in the centers is invite families for tasting of local foods and gardening, and anything that you do at the center, you can invite families to your centers. Something that we can do now also is invite farmers or elders to your program. And you can see this picture down here where this elder. I do remember with my grandparents, they call us and they start talking about what they went through. My family has ranches and they grow corn and different things. And just by hearing their stories about how they grow things, the importance of growing things, it just inspires us to keep doing that, right? And nowadays, probably we're losing that, we're losing that, those traditions. But if you have someone in your community that has that experience, probably you bring them to, so they can share their stories with children and families, and hopefully they get them excited to try more local foods, or go to even farmers market. The other point that I have here is connect families with farmers market, and it is different in every area, every place. Not all the towns have farmers market, but for those that you have a farmer markets, one thing that you can share with families is that SNAP and WIC benefits can be used at farmers market, and they can go and get their stuff, their fruits and vegetables in the farmers market. So it's little things like this that can make a change in the family's behaviors and lifestyles, as I mentioned. Something that I want to share is that don't get discouraged. Everything takes a process. Making changes is not easy all the time. So all the time and effort that we invest in this is not, it's not wasted, it's well invested. So what we're doing is planting the seeds, right? It's planting the seeds in the families, and it takes a process to see the fruits, to see the benefits. So yeah, and with this, I can go to the next slide. And I don't know who's next.
Thank you, Alberto and Gabriel. So many good tips in there. And yeah, in case you're not aware, we can send out information about the farmers market program. There's a program called Double Up Bucks that has just received additional funding. So it will be expanded as an opportunity to even more families. So you can take your SNAP benefits to the farmers market, change in tokens. You can give them $20 worth your SNAP and come back with $40 in tokens. So it's a great way to try to introduce families to farmers markets if they're in the area. That program is also available at some local grocery stores. So again, we can send some follow-up information for you all to be able to share with the families. All right, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Corey to talk a little bit about some tools that we have to help you implement. We've shared a lot about resources to implement, but also to track what you're doing and to get recognition for the great work that you've been up to.
All right, hi everybody. This is Corey, your friendly neighborhood evaluator for the Farm to Preschool program. That means I deal with everything reporting. But we kind of want to, reconceptualize, what does reporting mean? I think another way to think about it is, how can we recognize you for the awesome work, one, that you're already doing, and two, that you're going to be doing with this Farm to Preschool program. One really lovely thing about reporting for Farm to Preschool is that you can already use the reporting systems you're using right now. All of you are part of CACFP and you do nutrition education already every month. And you're using this form that's up on the screen. This is from the CACFP program over at Pam's office. And we have made some small changes to this form so that you can just use this exact same form to report your Farm to Preschool efforts. And so I think this image is big enough. If it's not, feel free to tell me so in the chat, but you should be pretty familiar with it already. It's got some information at the top about, you know, your sponsor organization, your center, the type of activity that you're using for your nutrition education that month. You go in and you describe the activity. You talk about, you know, what did those kids like best out of your activity. On the right-hand side, you'll see a spot for creditable foods, and that's for CACFP. This should all be super familiar to you. This is not new. But in that little golden box, you can see we've got a section for NM grown foods, and that is new. So when you're using some really yummy local mushrooms from the Anthony Youth Farm, or you're getting some apples from the Wagner Farm, you can put down what local foods you are using in your activity. And then that little box down in the right-hand corner, you know, you can write down what types of nutrition education you did, whether it's an activity or game. This is all old stuff. You guys are familiar with it. But you can see there's that little golden arrow at the bottom, and there's a little option there for farm to preschool activity. So when you are doing something for farm to preschool, check that box, and then you get double credit for what you're doing. You get credit for CACFP, and then you also get credit for farm to preschool. And you know, every year during the annual CACFP trainings, we have a little award ceremony, you know, some awards for CACFP. I know Alberto always gives awards for Healthy Kids, Healthy Preschool. And then new this year, we're going to have some awards for farm to preschool. So you all could, you know, whether, depending on what you're participating in, maybe you could get awards in all three categories. But we can't recognize you unless we know what you're doing. So please make sure you're documenting your activities on this form. And Pam, is there anything that I missed about those awards at the CACFP annual training?
No, you covered it really well. So normally you keep the nutrition ed in your binder for when we do administrative review. But if you like recognition, you send those in to Laura to look at. So that's where we would recognize you, hopefully in person soon, and get a certificate there. But just like Corey said, it's real important since you're on farm to preschool. Now you can do double. Both you can do nutrition ed for CACFP as well as for your mini grant, your pilot program.
Awesome. And Pam, when are those trainings again?
So our annual CACFP trainings are generally in May and June.
Awesome. So, you know, you start doing farm to preschool nutrition education, start recording it because we want to give you that recognition at those trainings coming up. Next slide, Alina. So, you know, when we were thinking about nutrition education for farm to preschool, you know, I kind of got a little confused myself. I was like, well, what counts as nutrition education for farm to preschool and what doesn't? So I put together this little graphic, and I hope it helps clarify things a little bit. And I really like to think about, you know, nutrition education as a big umbrella. And the big umbrella is really nutrition education for CACFP, because you guys are all in CACFP, and that's really broad in general. It's just education about food and nutrients. And so underneath that umbrella, we've kind of got two categories. One is going to be farm to preschool. And then, of course, the other one is going to be not farm to preschool. And so what counts as nutrition education for farm to preschool? Pretty straightforward. It's going to be activities with New Mexico grown food. So, you know, some locally grown food from your farmer's market or from a farmer down the road. Or, you know, if you're not using local food, but you're talking about how food grows, you know, whether that's gardening or learning about agriculture and how farms work, that also counts as nutrition education for farm to preschool. So, you know, think about those beautiful photos that Gabriel was talking about earlier, you know, the seed art, that counts as education about how food grows, seed balls also. So those are some examples of what does count. Things that don't count, what's not farm to preschool, are going to be activities that don't have local foods. So if you're just using, you know, a pineapple and a strawberry, those things don't really grow in New Mexico, so we're not going to count it for farm to preschool. Or if you have nutrition education that doesn't talk about how food grows, that's also not going to count. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're doing your nutrition education, and try to get that local food in there, and you can get double credit for CACFP and Farm to Preschool. All right, back to you, Alina.
Thanks, Corey. I really appreciate you sharing that. And if folks have questions about the reporting form or anything like that, drop them in the chat. After I share a couple of resources, we'll open up to questions as well. So hopefully you heard a lot about a lot of the resources, both, curricula, lesson plans, as well as people. We're building a farm to preschool community here too. So we want you to know you have all these people here that are to support you in your efforts. So all of us at DOH, ECECD, and our partners that you heard from today, we're all resources for you. So do feel free to reach out to us as you get started implementing. We at the DOH have created a number of one-pagers for our farm to preschool work, so that we have a nutrition education one-pager that does a pretty good job of capturing everything we talked about today. So if you were taking notes, feel you can release that stress a little bit and know that you'll get a one-pager that has a lot of that in it. We'll also share this recording with you and this PowerPoint. But that is a great resource. It will be available in English and Spanish to share. You can also share that with your families, and it might be a good tool for letting them know what you're up to. The Nuevo Thursdays programming I told you about, there's a guide, which is a comprehensive guide, and there's numerous promotional materials that are available. We'll be sending those out to you all, and we'll have a follow-up training specifically on Nuevo Thursdays because it is a program that has been piloted by the agencies, and we really want to highlight it. It's a beautiful curriculum, again, all about New Mexico. As Gabriel talked about, we've got the Dinky book series, which is the wordless book series. I shared earlier how we'll share those with you. We also have a toolkit list, a farm to preschool toolkit list, which I know we've mentioned a few times and you might be aware with. Ava, honey, can you be quiet? Sorry, my 4-year-old's in the background, spinning and dancing. And so those toolkits are linked right here in this presentation if you'd like to. We also have a farm to preschool book list, and I'm actually going to take a moment to pull it up for y'all. This is a book list that we curated of our favorite farm to preschool books. So you can see on the top, there's ones that we thought are pretty relevant for us here, whether that's culturally or that they share stories about foods that we think are common here. And then there's some other ideas for books. And some of these include gardening ideas, cookbooks like From Cooking with Kids. So it's ways of incorporating those other strategies of farm to preschool into your work. And then we also wanted to share a tool coming from North Carolina. And what's beautiful about this tool is it's all about building outdoor learning environments. And so we realized that gardens are one type, but there's other ways, right, that you can get kids outside learning, as Gabriel said, how important that is. So conducting your nutrition education outdoors might be a great strategy too. Okay, I am going to go on mute so I can talk to my daughter. And we're just going to offer a few minutes for questions or comments from anyone. So please come off mute, speak up, and make sure that we can answer any questions you have today.
We put it in Brady Bunch, Elena, now, so that we can see everybody. Cool. Well, I guess people are, except for the presenters, aren't on, but people can come on camera if you'd like. If you have questions, feel free.
Hi, everyone. I just want to share a comment that Ashley Tackett put in the chat, and I think it's a really important note to bring up. So she says, we really appreciate the resources, but is there any way that these meetings could be done a little earlier in the day, maybe between 12 and 3? We've been doing, as you all know, these trainings around 3:30 to 4:30. Ashley says it's a really tough time because the school-age kids are coming in and staff have to pick up their school-age children. Also, preschool children are leaving, and with the COVID safety plans in place, we're all having to take and meet each family at the door as they're unable to enter the buildings. So I just want to open that up, especially for those of y'all who are representing our centers today. Do y'all agree? Does this seem like a kind of hard time, or is there a better time where we could meet? And feel free to pop questions or comments in the chat as well.
I'll just say thanks for flagging that, Corey. I know we've tried to figure out earlier or later what works better for people and like juggling it in between. And so that's why I know you understand that for our community, our pilot sites and at the community level, these are required. For our mini grantees, they're optional. We also have them all recorded. We can do our best to offer makeup sessions if you need. So again, just let us know if it doesn't work. And thank you, Ashley, for letting us know right now it doesn't work, but also feel free to drop us an email. We really want to make sure that it is an easy way for you guys to join us.
Awesome, good. Thanks everybody who's sticking stuff in the chat. Carrie says that they have the same issue. Earlier would be better. Barbara says she agrees. Most children are dropped off around 9 a.m. until we have to send staff to pick up school children at 2:30. And then Jessica says this time is good, but usually between 12 and 2 p.m. is best nap time. Awesome. This is really, really useful feedback, y'all. Absolutely useful. Like Alina said, we'll always have kind of those alternate measures in place. So you can always watch the recordings and we'll have makeup sessions. Oh, yay, the Hive Education says agreed. So I think we'll try to reschedule these meetings. And if you're like, wait, no, I love this time, put it in the chat or email one of us and we'll figure out a good time for everybody.
Thanks, Corey. As we said, we'll share the resources out with you all. There'll be a follow-up email as always from the training with the recording and linked resources. And then please do reach out to our partners that were here today. We will be doing a nutrition education part 2 training, as I've mentioned a couple of times, to talk about Nuevo Thursdays and anything else you guys are curious to learn more about. So if you have questions or desires, if you're like, hey, what we really need is more recipes, or hey, you want to hear more about those book options, just let us know. You know, we're trying to make these trainings work for all of you. This is a community of all of us learning together. So again, we will send all of that to you. We look forward to seeing you again. We'll let you know when we schedule the nutrition education training part 2. But I would anticipate we'll try to do that probably here next month. Wow, it's flying. I can't believe it's March. I had to like do a mental calendar there. And we also really want to do a family engagement training with y'all to gear up for spring and some of the great foods that we're going to be able to work with our farmers to feature for you. So those will be the next trainings on the docket. And as Corey said, we will reevaluate the meeting time, maybe move it up, but you should anticipate hearing about the nutrition education follow-up and then a family engagement training for spring featuring some of our local products. All right, well, thank you all for being with us this afternoon. Really appreciate you. And again, just thank you for the work you do every day to support our kiddos and the next generation of New Mexicans. You are doing amazing work, and we're so grateful that you're on this farm to preschool journey with us as well. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.